Parents with nanny cams, what have you caught your babysitter doing? Friends of ours don't have kids but have dogs. They were going out of town and told the dog sitter about all of the cameras including the one that is outside but sometimes picks up reflections and will actively notify them of motion. The dog sitter seemed to get it but she forgot to convey that to her boyfriend who came out and walked around naked quite a bit. The dogs were naked, too. Fair's fair. I was the eye caught in camera a few times. 1. A family who had bunnies caught me on camera booping noses to the beat of the song I was singing. Little bunny foo-foo hopping through the kitchen, picking up all the lettuce and munchy munchy munch. 2. A different family saw me get freaking tackled by their 95-pound mastiff puppy, and they immediately called me to make sure I didn't have a concussion since I just kinda laid there for a while. I was fine. I just got the wind knocked out of me. 3. Yet another different family saw me reading a book to their kids, and later complimented all the voices I make. I had no idea they could hear audio and I got so embarrassed, since I really did go all out. I always heard little bunny foo-foo hopping through the forest, picking up the field mice and bopping them on the head lol. Made me happy to be reminded of it though. When I was around 12 years old, my parents caught my babysitter on camera stealing minors' games and shoving them into her pants and shirt. They confronted her about it and she kept denying it until Ninja Gaiden fell out of her pant leg. My mom took her into a room and made take out all the games she stole. She literally had games shoved under the strap of her bra on her back so that she could sneak them out of the house, and others were put inside the waistband of her underwear. She must have really thought about this for a while. Anyway, we got the games back and she was sent home without pay. I dog sit for some neighbors, one of which told me she has a camera in the living room dining room for her dogs. You know those ones that dispense treats? Anyways, I thought it was a strange essential oil diffuser until she told me what it was. I was being paid to play with them for an hour but she found out that I was actually staying for 2 or 3 hours. When she asked me about it I think I said something like I'd want someone to do the same for my dog. Ever since then she leaves me treats in the kitchen and even got me a Christmas present from the dogs. She picked up our pug Dudgy and was dancing around the living room with him while that "Hey, I Just Met You" song was playing. My uncle told me this once when a babysitter was holding his daughter, my older cousin, when she was a baby. The baby was playing with her toys and she somehow swallowed a small piece of something and the babysitter performed the Heimlich but for babies. There's a version of that for babies IDK where I found it though. She saved my cousin and her family was thankful. They have no idea where the babysitter is now but right now she's supposed to be around her late 40s. I asked my uncle about this and apparently they know where the babysitter is. She is in California and she is a very well paid doctor and makes over $310K a year. Physician. That's the only thing he knows since she left. Not a nanny cam, but the video baby monitor managed to catch our then 1.5-month-old projectile vomiting on me, and then straight up into the mouth and on the face of my husband 2 minutes later. One of those things that's funny now but not at the time. Caught the babysitter masturbating on our couch. The babysitter was still my female cousin. I figured the best thing was to just say nothing, save the awkwardness. She did it a fair amount. I then mentioned our house cam by accident some months later and her face dropped. I realized what I'd said then casually threw in that I'd never checked it. Again, to save the awkwardness. Le cousins dangerooks. Not a nanny cam, but a vid. My sil sat the camera down thinking she turned it off. I have over an hour of her teasing my toddler, in a mean way, with candy and popsicles. She started telling him that he would get some, then held it just out of reach. She then ate it in front of him making mmmmmmm sounds. She was also calling him mean and weird names like Turd Muncher and Ricky Retardo. The camera got all the audio, but only some video. At the end of the video is when we got home. When I confronted her with the video, she started claiming I doctored it. I was a liar and a shat and hated her because she was prettier than my wife. She is not. That was the last time she was allowed around either of our kids unsupervised. She was the sil for 10ish years and is now the crazy Karen X-sil. I can't have a presence on social media because she attacks me all the time, says lies etc. I am also estranged from my brother because of her. 10 years of her warped his perception of our family. He still thinks some of the whacked out things she accused our dad, sister, other brother, and various other family members of. No reasoning has convinced him of the truth. Not even the thought that if video evidence refutes some of the claims, then all can be considered suspect. I may get comments and advice of what I could do, but in the end you can't fight crazy, and sometimes life is just not fair. The only thing I have done to make things better is ignore her. She eventually just starts attacking someone else, like an annoying yipping dog that just needs to annoy. As for my brother, I hope time will help to fix things. I also think that he might just be more like her than I think. Birds of a feather fly together. She is not, is the comedic grace of this story. When she put my daughter down for her nap, she took a nap on the bed next to her. This isn't a bad thing at all. Different beds. 2-year girl who still needs a 90-minute power nap in the middle of the day. I just thought it was funny when I turned on the camera and saw them both napping. I used to babysit the world's greatest kiddo, and the parents actually encouraged me to nap alongside the child. Literally the best naps ever. A colleague of mine saw that, when his 8-month-old baby cried, the nanny just ignored him and kept watching reality TV, not paying any attention to him while he bawled his eyes out. She did not attempt to console him or anything. She just tried to hear the TV. There were a few other troubling instances too, like she'd say they went on a brief stroll but disappeared for hours with no explanation, or she didn't follow the parents' instructions on how to put him to sleep and let him cry, and my colleague realized that the baby was anxious and desperate every time the nanny arrived. Heartbreaking really. I have a nanny cam for the purpose of creeping my dog while I'm at work. But it's how I discovered my former superintendent was coming into my apartment randomly to steal a nug from my jar of weed. I'm in Canada. Weed is legal. Friend caught hers rummaging through her closet and stealing a blouse. She confronted her about it when she returned home, and the woman played innocent. She was wearing the fricking blouse. That's bold of the babysitter. We hired a dog sitter over the Thanksgiving holidays to check on the pooch, feed the cats, get the mail, etc. Def pointed out the various security cams to her. She asked if she could bring her sister along for company. We said sure, no problem. The sister, we found out in conversation, attends a nearby hyper-conservative fundamentalist school. When the hired sitter took the dog out and the fundy sister had the house to herself, she took the opportunity to scream free at the top of her lungs a few times. Not a lot else. Just paced around the living room dropping high decibel F-bombs. Gotta find some way to vent that fundy angst. I literally did that when I was a fundy school kid. Pre-nannicums. Solidarity. Watched her outside playing with my dogs. She was dog sitting. Our yellow Labrador and golden retriever puppy started munching the blueberries right now off our blueberry bushes. They know dang well they're not supposed to get into the blueberry patch. We watched our dog sitter run over to them and try to get them to stop. She then ran inside and ran back out with a bowl. She proceeded to race the dogs for the blueberries. Had to be one of the highlights of our trip. We came home to a bowl of blueberries in the fridge and 2 very guilty papas. There are cameras around my grandmother's house. She has dementia and is taken care of by nurses. One beat her up for a whole minute. Nurse knew there were cameras and didn't care. Obviously got fired. We live in a crappy country with crappy laws. We weren't allowed to press charges or any of the sort. You should just beat the living daylights out of the nurse if she can't press charges. My friend is a nanny and sometimes she takes the small human she watches and has her dance for the parents randomly in front of the camera or wave since it is a Google Hub and has photos of the parents. Small gifts for the parents to find if they review the video from that day. Not me, but my aunt and uncle had CCTV cams installed in the house. One of them caught their nana physically shaming my toddler cousin and their 1-year-old or so baby. This was a few years ago. Luckily they were young enough to not have very lasting memories. Jesus, I hope so. The parents sent them to experts for therapy sessions, so I hope there are little to no lasting damage. Not my kids, but my sister's. This was when my nephew was still very young and my sister was still breastfeeding. Long story short, my sister caught the babysitter drinking her breast milk. She had her suspicions because my nephew would go through twice as much milk when the babysitter was taking care of him. My sister set up the camera and caught the guy in the act. Apparently the guy was some sort of fitness nut and had read that breast milk can be very beneficial. As weird as it sounds, my sister ended up working out a deal with the guy. She got him to drop the price of watching the kid in exchange for a bit of breast milk every now and again. I've got an awesome supply of milk ATM and have seriously considered selling it. Apparently you can make a fortune off it by selling to fitness nuts. My babysitter is 100% cool. My husband's goddamn cat gets on the goddamn dining room table that she knows she is not allowed on as soon as she hears the car leave the driveway. Little snit. I have cameras all over the inside and outside of my house. It's standard with a Ring doorbell. Next came critter cams I put near my bird feeders. Then cameras everywhere. I used them mostly to look for the wild bunnies in my yard and to see the owl leave its roost at night. The indoor cameras are dog cameras. My wife and I use them to view and talk to our dogs while at work. The weirdest thing I've caught my dog doing. I had made a batch of jerky, put it in a large Ziploc bag, and place it in the dining room table in preparation for a camping trip. My 19-pound TZU, which is large for a TZU, was caught on video moving a dining room chair, jumping up onto it, then jumping onto the table. He ate the entire bag of jerky, leaving only the bag. He did this in less than 10 minutes. Well, now we know why he's 19 pounds. I watch my cat get inside her bag of food and start eating while I'm at work. No wonder her diet isn't working. My babysitter took our kids out of the house and claimed she went to the park. Turns out she took them to a friend's house without car seats. Person without kids here who plans to have kids. Parents, do you usually tell babysitters that you have a nanny cam installed? I'm curious and thinking about the potential legal and ethical implications both ways, and I'm guessing different states have different laws about recording persons without their consent. I'm a nanny, and it is in my contract that all cameras must be disclosed. Any undisclosed camera I find will immediately void the contract. That being said, if I get thrown up on poop, paint, food, whatever on me, I need to know what is a safe area to change so that my bosses don't get a show they aren't paying for. People opposed to this are not people I work for. One of my exes and her mom had to leave town for a week and they had 3 cats. One only had 3 legs because he got hit by a car. Poor timid little thing that hid all the time and refused to come out. And a dog that had diabetes. They hired someone just to come over once in the morning and once at night to feed, let the dog out and give the dog his medicine. They had cams. I'm not sure why they put them in place, and found that the guy stayed there all day just playing with the animals, and even got the timid cat to come out and cuddle with him. They showed me the videos of him arriving and all of their pets rushing to the door to meet him. Obligatory, not a parent, but part of my course training to be a childcare practitioner means we have to learn signs of abuse. We had to watch footage from nanny cams where the carers involved hit the children with large soft books, so it wouldn't bruise, swung an infant by the ankles for crying, which is why we now check ankles for bruises, and one awful woman shook a baby who wouldn't go to sleep. The child suffered severe brain damage and is now permanently mentally disabled. It made me sick to watch it. Not a nanny cam but a camera in my sister's room when she was a toddler. She had a habit of getting out of her toddler bed. So me, my dad and my mom would watch it, and every time she got up we'd all say go back to bed Serena. It was funny to see her reaction. I was the babysitter. I used to look after the daughter of a couple who played tennis with my uncle. They were super rich and went out all the time. The kid would go to bed at about 7. Then I would sneak a bit of booze from their well-stocked bar. I wouldn't drink it on the job, but I'd pour it into my water bottle to take to my next party. It happened on and off for about 3 years. Then one night they must have changed their security system or something, and I got busted. They were very chill about it, seeing as I clearly didn't drink it while watching their kid, but told me they could get in trouble for supplying. We have a nest in our kids' room and living dining. You can see partially into the kitchen from the living room cam, but not much. About the second week into using a new sitter we catch her talking tons of crap about my wife and how she coddles our 18-month-old son. Bragged about how she was going to quit at the end of the day because she hates working for us and doesn't like our son. While she's in the kitchen she puts him in his high chair and turns on an iPad for him to watch Elmo. No screen time allowed. He asks to get down and go play after a few minutes and she says no. He starts to cry and she basically yells at him, "OMG, are you serious right now? You're so dang needy." So he cries harder. About 10 minutes later she takes him back to his room where he calms down. I get home a few minutes later and send her on the way. "Sitter, oh, you're home early. We had a rough morning but we are feeling better now." Me: "Yeah, hey, you know that camera in the living room is on all the time and I can hear everything you say and do in the kitchen, right?" She kinda stuttered and I told her to gtfo. Then me and my kid hung out all day and had a blast. The thing that got me was being mean to my son. Like he's not even 2 yet. There you go, coddling him again. We had a nanny that locked our 2-year-old in her room and didn't pick up our 5-month-old for 4 hours. She even propped a bottle up with pillows to feed him. We had a live stream to our phones. I was away visiting foster kids for work and was 2 hours away from home. My husband alerted me to the situation and I drove home immediately. He and his co-workers watched live as I fired her on the spot. I think he was making sure I didn't kill her. I was a social worker at the time and had seen much worse, but I'm glad my intense paranoia from all the horrific abuse and neglect I had seen made me get the camera. I quit working not long after that. I've been home for 9 years. It could have been much worse, but it was enough for me. If anyone is going to screw up my kids, it's me. Less than a month ago, my co-worker was notified that his child was crying. I guess his cams are some high-tech cry detecting crap. One of his nannies said nothing had happened, so he checked the cam, which he showed us during lunch. The nanny, recently hired, was just chillin' with his 3-year-old and 1-year-old. When the 1-year-old got close to the edge of the bed, the sitter just sat there, watching, while the kid slowly crawled closer and closer towards the abyss. She did nothing and the kid fell pretty hard. Surprise, surprise. My co-worker questioned the nanny again, who knew there were cameras, and she denied being responsible for the fall. He told her to pack up her things and leave. It was pretty cringe, watching her just look at the kid get hurt. Like any human would instinctually know danger was approaching. Da fuck? Paid an employee to come over and let my dog out, feed her, and play with her while we were out of town. 1 hour tops. Ended up with footage of him staying the night, sleeping in my bed, naked, and bringing over another dog he was dog sitting for someone else. Didn't know about that, which he let sleep in my bed with him. Worst part was that my dog didn't do well around other dogs she doesn't know. Poor girl was up all night stressed out by this intruder. No a nanny cam but my cat camera. I was at work and watched the police kick in my apartment door. My downstairs neighbor with PTSD had an episode and called the cops saying I was screaming for help. That was fun. No nanny cam, because it was the late 70s, but my mother came to get me early, unannounced, from the sitter and found me tied to a chair, in the kitchen, alone, with the babysitter in the backyard with her own kid in a baby pool having a grand old time. My mother is not a violent person, but she was that day. I was a nanny in college. I'd occasionally take a couple of the kids' probiotic gummy vitamins. I always felt so scandalous. The vitamins were delicious. My aunt has security footage of their dog sitter fully naked just chilling around their house. They found out she's a whole nudist. They still use her. They just get a kick out of knowing that some college girl just hangs out naked at their house when they go on vacations, lol. I had a camera in my apartment to watch my dog while I was at work. One day maintenance came by to fix the drain in the tub. Then he sat at my computer and started trying to log into it, looking in drawers, and generally invading my privacy. My camera lets me talk through it and I was watching this unfold live. I hope you're comfortable in my chair. Trying to access my computer. You should probably go tell the management to expect a phone call and a video email. Our neighbor's pet sitter dressed up their pit bulls and hosted a dinner party for them while binge watching Downton Abbey. She gave them each their own voice, as well. The male sounded like Robert Kennedy with a head cold and the female like an Australian Queen Elizabeth. They talked crap about my dog and ate a box of Ritz crackers. Ours caught our nanny stealing money from our vacation fund. She also left our 9-month-old sitting on the counter as she walked away. Later that day, it caught a phone call about buying drugs, how much, the dealer's name and a bunch of other stuff. Turns out she had cleared out our 4-year-old's piggy bank of $115. took money and gift cards from my wife's purse, stole my gold wedding ring. I wear a silicone one most days, and a bottle of hydrocodone. I provided the evidence to the police and she was caught. She was found guilty in January. She had only worked for us for a few weeks. We have a Ring doorbell and we put out snacks for delivery drivers. My parents were in town and stayed a week over to sit out dogs while we went out of town for the week. We get notifications on our phones when the doorbell senses movement, of course. 2 or 3 times a day the notification was my mother going out to the delivery driver's snack stash taking Little Debbie cakes. We had a good laugh about it but never told my mom we knew. She gets embarrassed easily. However, same week we were gone, we also had recently put in a couple of inside cameras before we left. One is in our living room facing the couch. It was new to us so we were checking out the footage from our phones on and off a couple of times during the week. One time my diabetic dad was sitting on the couch binge eating the kids' Cheetos. My dad does not get embarrassed easily, so I had to say something over the two-way speaker. I said, "Hey dad, last time I checked those were not diabetic friendly Cheetos." My dad replied, "Frick you, and you will need to buy more Cheetos. Love my dad so much. LOL. Not me, and not a babysitter, but my mum's friend was getting her house decorated by this painter. Since her and her husband would be at work all day, they put all the valuables in their bedroom and set up nanny cams around the room. Anyway, one day the husband gets this notification of movement from the cameras. He pulls up the footage and this painter is in their bedroom. The painter proceeds to get fully undressed and lie in the middle of their bed and masturbate. Needless to say, the husband went straight home and fired him. I'm guessing he finished. About 5 minutes later the decorator texts him, "Can I just ask why you've fired me?" and the husband obviously replies, "Because you've just had a wank in my bed." To which the painter replies, "Okay, no worries. I won't charge you for today's work." No nanny cam back then. Our babysitter took us upstairs and took her pants off and laid on the floor. She had us take turns putting our dongs on her tee and pressing, not in, just on, as hard as we could, as she said to do. This other boy and I had no idea why. We were about 5 or 6 at the time. I remember a sense of feeling like it was wrong. I told my mom and I never saw her again. True of my chest. Never told that before. First memories WTF. Oh god, I am so sorry. My parents foster kittens and have a live feed camera in the room where the kittens roam around. One night, a woman accidentally broke into our house, drunk on drugs, thought it was her boyfriend's house, and walked into the kitten room. The camera footage is just of her squealing over the phone to her boyfriend. "Oh, name. There's kitties," and then talking to the kittens in the most non-malevolent drunk girl voice, LOL. I bought one to keep an eye on the cats when we drove to see the eclipse and visit my fam a couple years ago. My one cat figured it out and would sit there having random conversations with me, rubbing his face on it. It really entertained my family. Got a ping during the eclipse. Seems he was seriously concerned about the planet. I could see my ancient cat running laps in the background while Smart Cat was giving me a rundown. The third cat was mysteriously absent. I freaking love this. I would love to watch my cat. It was actually our babysitter's mom that was the problem. When our babysitter was over, who was a teenager, the mom would come over, knock on the door, and ask to use our bathroom. I remember answering and saying, "Okay, here it is," and showed her the closer downstairs bathroom. But she said, "No, I need to use the upstairs bathroom." Turned out she was stealing medicine from us. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.